All right, ladies and gentlemen, on the guest list this week, one of our favorite guitar players, the man, the legend from Incubus, Mike Einziger. Mike, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thank you for such an illustrious intro. Legendary, legendary status.
Dude, we come
I'll
from the
take that.
generation. I'm 32. I grew up on
Take that.
Incubus. This is big to me. I love
Yeah, I'll
this.
take that.
You should take it. We're happy to have you here, and obviously, we're going to talk about Morning View. It's seminal record, huge record for all of us in our childhood, huge record for you professionally. But more than anything, you guys re-recorded it. And you're touring it. Why now? Why was this the time to do that?
We had decided during the pandemic that we were gonna do a live stream of Morning View from front to back and just play the whole song, play the whole album. And it was a 20-year anniversary. And when we did it, it was really fun. Like we just, I don't know, I didn't expect it to be that fun.
Right.
And when we did it, it was really fun. And we started talking about like, yeah, maybe we should play some shows, but it was pandemic, so people weren't playing shows. And then pretty shortly after that, Ben, our bass player, who'd been with us for over 20 years, he resigned from the band, in totally good, amicable, terms. He's a great guy, an incredible musician, contributed so much to the band. And one of the people that like when I had this sort of discussion with him, he said, I made you a list of people
Ah, nice.
who could like replace me, like, and and at the top of that list was this girl, Nicole Row. And it was funny because, like, he's talking about her like, oh, she's amazing. She's great. She's this, she's that. I'm like, all right, well, can you connect me with her? He's like, oh, I don't know her. So I'm literally like, all right, am I going to DM this girl? Like, on my sliding into her DMs on Instagram? Like, so
How'd you like the opportunity of a lifetime?
I slid into Nicole's DMs and she was just like, "What's up?" Like it was really funny. It was like a Friday. It was like a Friday, and I didn't even know. I wasn't aware of any of this, but Panic at the Disco, who she'd been playing with, had broken up recently, and they had just completed their farewell tour. And the night that I spoke with her was like the night that they played their last tour. So she like had this like sort of unbelievable, like, just ability to do whatever she wanted after that. And when I called her and we talked, we finally spoke on the phone. It was just like it couldn't have been easier, more effortless. Like she just was like, "Well, I grew up listening to your music. I know most of your songs. Like, when do you need me in LA?" And I was like, Monday." And she was like, "I'll be there." She didn't even like it wasn't even like a thing. Like no, arguing about anything, no squabbling about anything. She just showed up and was just awesome
What a
from the
pro.
first second we met her. Like
I
coolest girl, can play anything. And she's played with lots of different artists, like Panic at the Disco, Miley Cyrus, like just to name a few. Like
She played with
she's
Sublime for a
very
while too, I think.
what's that?
I think she played with Sublime for a while too, right?
I don't think Sublime, but
I want to say she
um,
is.
she's played with
Like,
a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
people.
I
right.
She
it was
like
one of the
she
watching a lot of these like recent videos of tour, just like scrolling through the Incubus feed on Instagram and just seeing her fits seamlessly, but also brings a presence to the band that like obviously Ben's a huge part of the band, but it just brought some sort of life to the band as well. It's really cool to see.
I mean, we're all, I'm 48 years old. We're all the rest of us in the band are pretty much the same age. Nicole's like 30. So like she comes in all, like happy and excited and like naturally you get a bunch of old dudes are like, "Oh yeah, like let's go rehearse. Like that'll be fun." Like
That's
she
not
just
that's also not fair though, because Brandon Boyd might be the most like aged gracefully, like still sounds the same, like meditates, like I don't know. He just strikes me as someone
Brandon
who's ageless.
I can honestly say about Brandon. Brandon's aged in reverse, like in terms of his like interest in like making music. Like he's like a little kid. Like he
Yeah.
loves nothing more than to like write a new song idea and like try to like build it into a song. Like he
Brandon Boyd, Benjamin Button, BB.
he just loves
be
it.
What a
something.
coincidence.
Like he just really loves it. And like I admire that because I'm 48 and I'm like cynical as shit. Like I'm like write
You
another
have 4
song,
kids,
like
Mike. Of course you are.
put another album out, like really, like guys, come on, like I'm much more like jaded, but it's fine, it's all good. We all know each other really well, so like that's not a problem. But Brandon has like a genuine love of making music that like I'm really grateful for that. He's the singer of the band. If the singer of the band like doesn't like making music, like you're not gonna have a good band. So
Yeah, that probably be a tough sell to the audience if the singer
yeah.
doesn't appreciate it. Well, we
Yeah, no,
also
Brandon loves it.
you're also the second member of Incubus on the podcast. We had Jose on 2 years ago. Jose gave us some very good stories about Steven Adler coming over his house as a child and kind of fucked up playing his drums. Do you have any famous rock stars who ever infiltrated your house and showed you
I mean,
up?
I was there for that stuff with Jose.
Okay, so
Like,
you can say that was true because we
oh,
left that big like
100%. Steven Adler lived next door to Jose, and like it was like folklore. We're in high school, so like Guns N' Roses is like this massive band, and it's like people are whispering to us. They're like, Steve Adler lives like like next to Jose. Like we'd see him like walking around at times, and like and then he'd hear us playing and he'd start getting curious and being like, hey, what's going on over there? And he'd come over to Jose's house and we'd be like, Steven Adler's at our house, this is crazy.
Have you ever considered
he was a super nice guy. You know like I don't know, I'm trying to think of like rock star stories. I mean, the biggest rock star story that I can ever really tell anybody is that we were a bunch of kids playing music in the garage, like every other kid. Like we didn't have like our parents weren't like music business people. Like we didn't have any connections like in the entertainment world or anything. And we would go and play shows and like sometimes like just like people that we idolized would like show up. And like one time we played, there was this place called the Alligator Lounge.
hell yeah.
Yeah, I think or the Dragonfly. It was either the Dragonfly or the Alligator Lounge. One of those two places in LA. I want to say the Dragonfly. And Incubus played there. It was kind of a shitty club, like maybe 50 people could fit in there. And we knew we were playing till like midnight or 1 a.m. It was like a Thursday night or something.
Classic
The
spot.
only people who came and watched us play that night was Green Day. The whole band. All of them.
Did they give you an explanation
Billy,
why?
what
Did you talk to
there
them
was
after?
a producer that we were working with who like I think had been like talking to those guys about like working together or something, and he like invited them down. But the cool thing was like there was literally nobody there except for them. So they sat in front of us, like in front of the stage, like
Jesus.
right up in front of the stage, and like started watching us play. And it's like, all right, we're like a bunch of like local, like we're a local band, no record deal, no like whatever. And like Green Day is there, like watching you play.
Did you play well?
Yeah, were you shitting your
I think we
pants?
did all right. They hung out with us afterwards and like we had some drinks and like just shot the shit with those guys, and they could not have been cooler, nicer, like they were super supportive. And then later on when we achieved success, like they were like, good job, guys.
Proud of you.
We knew you'd make it, like it just stuff like that, but it was an odd experience to go from being in a garage playing music by ourselves to our friends, like to pretty soon thereafter we're opening up for all these groups that we grew up listening to. We're playing with Rage Against the Machine and,
Oh.
and Pearl Jam and like Soundgarden. It's just like that was crazy. Like that's why I believe we're living in a simulation.
Yeah, there are points you have to be looking at yourself in the mirror going like, why am I in this movie theater right now? Why do I get to work with Hans Zimmer? Like, what is going on with my life?
Like what the fuck is that all about? Like, oh, I'm scoring a movie with Hans Zimmer and Pharrell and Johnny Marr. Like, what the fuck is that all
All
about?
right, you
Like,
can't see, we can't just glaze over that. We're gonna get into morning view, but can we please
all
explain
right.
what you just said?
So to make a long story short, my wife, Anne Marie, who I had met around 2010, she had been Hans's right hand for like 10 years or something like that. Or maybe later, maybe like 2015 or something. Um, she kind of co-wrote, played on all these different scores, and she was really, really, really talented at sort of helping Hans execute his visions for all these films. But he was also a person that we had like in common as friends. So like when they were working together, and then when Anne Marie and I got together, it was like, oh, like let's all do stuff together. And so we started like scoring movies together. We did a bunch of stuff, at the same time. Um, and then Hans got this idea that he wanted to have like a band, like score a movie, because he's at a point in his career, and this was a long time ago now, but even back then, he was at a point in his career where like he didn't want to do stuff by himself. He
Right.
he he thought collaboration was fun, and he didn't care about the like the money part of it. Like it just he was so successful he could just do what he wanted, and so he said, "Why don't we make a band?" And it'll be me and you and Pharrell, Johnny Marr, Anne Marie, and a couple other folks that like Steve Mazzaro is a guy that he collaborates frequently with, who became a close friend of ours, and we scored I think there was a Spider-Man movie together. And the funny part was that the director of that Spider-Man movie had directed an Incubus video. So when he
Wait,
walked in, it was like, oh, I know that guy.
were
Like
these like the Amazing Spider-Man movies?
Mark Webb. Yeah.
Yes.
It was the Amazing Spider-Man 2, I believe.
Oh, that's the
And
one with Electro. I'm a nerd out real quick.
yeah, Electro. That's right. Jamie Foxx. And we had a great time. Like we just spent like a week kind of like just writing songs, like watching pieces of the movie, looking at the characters, talking about like, who was good, who was bad, who was frenemies. And then we all just, sat in a room and wrote stuff. And it was just like, I mean, as a musician, like you have to make things like that happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't just like manifest. So I attribute that to Hans. He's like a super collaborative guy, and like will really work with like a lot of people. And so I had great, great, great experiences working with him.
Well, with what you do guitar wise, the scoring makes sense to me because you can set a stage. Obviously, we're going to get into effects and pedals and all that shit. We're going to get nerdy, but just it makes sense to me. Even when you listen to the top of Morning View and you come in and you set a stage, especially in this new version of the record, the intro to the intro is longer than it was on the original. I mean, kind of let's go into Morning View and the re-record and why that happened and the process of doing it. And did it feel like being on the road and doing these songs for as long as you have changed the way that you guys re-recorded them?
I mean, definitely. We when we play the songs from Morning View, most of them we'd been playing them for decades at that point. So naturally, we're gonna kind of like start changing um, the way we play parts. Some of them we'd forgotten about. Some of them we didn't forget about. Some of it was deliberate. Some of it was subconscious. Um, it just was one of those things that like we just saw it as like an authentic, organic way to do something that would excite our fans, that would be fun for us. And yeah, like it's a different thing in 2024 than it was in 2001.
Do you ever have a feeling when, like, because I play in a band and we're re-looking at re-recording an album that we put out 10 years ago.
Yep.
And sometimes I'm going through songs that I wrote and I have zero connection with the person who wrote them, and not necessarily in a negative way, just like it's so far removed. Like something came out of me at that point that I still basically agree with what I was trying to say, but it just feels like, who the fuck said that? Like that wasn't me. I don't identify with that person anymore.
Well, it's interesting because, we'd been playing those songs live as a group, that whole time. So I guess that dynamic may be a little different for what we were doing. Um, for us, it was much more of like sort of a live experience.
Hmm.
But also knowing that re-recording those songs would take on sort of a new life of its own. Um, but look, like music changes and evolves, and it's like 10 years ago, whatever you were thinking then is probably different than what you're going to be thinking now.
Yeah,
And
hopefully.
and and honestly, when it comes to like the relationships that went into writing that music, they may or may not represent the same things now,
Right.
and so writing them differently now, I would almost encourage you to like kind of lean into that and explore it and just see where it goes. It's like,
Yeah.
you don't always have to release it. It just, a lot of the things that we do as musicians are done sort of for like the purpose of just exercising the idea and seeing what it inspires, because it might act as a scaffolding for something else that you weren't thinking about or expecting.
Was
Yeah, I
there
mean,
any?
I find it a hard thing to do that, but that is such an important point, is that sometimes if you remove the idea of releasing something, of like the public exploitation of something, it radically changes the process. Like, because the minute that idea of releasing comes in, all kinds of ideas start to, not necessarily, it's not always infect, but sometimes it is infect the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Hell
agree.
yeah.
I
Deep.
totally agree.
Was there anything like going back and looking through the record? Because I'm sure you don't sit there and listen to Morning View on a daily basis and be like, wow, that was genius. But like when you're going back with a critical ear and going like, for 23 years, I've wanted to fucking change this one thing. Did you go back and was there anything you tweaked and you're like, finally, I've scratched that itch. I don't have to worry about that anymore.
I mean, I wouldn't put it in those specific terms, but what I would say is that like anybody who's in a band and anybody who's made a recording like knows that there are like probably a million things that you would do differently. So,
Hmm.
going back and like sort of re-recording and um like reassessing certain songs, like it gave us the opportunity to fully indulge on that idea, you know, even
How
if
much?
it's something small,
Yeah.
whatever, like, because you start playing them, when you play them live, they evolve and they just start changing and then they become different. And sometimes even so different to the point where you don't recognize certain things anymore. Like we changed parts that we didn't realize we changed. So like,
Were
not
there any songs that were particularly difficult or easy in this process? Like, did you hit any sticking points, or some like just a breeze?
I would just say that at the point, like by the time we started like recording stuff in the studio, we played the music so much that there wasn't really much questioning of what we were gonna do. Like
Hmm.
Nicole, our bass player, who's newer to the band, um, we didn't really question what she was gonna do because
Right.
like we knew it'd be different, but like it just like we trust her and like we enjoy working with her, and like so we knew that like you know I guess if something was going to come out um you know and kind of jar everybody and be like, whoa, what was that? Like that would be one thing, but that wasn't happening. So it
Hmm.
was more just like her getting to kind of like climb around on a jungle gym that she's familiar with, but doing it in a way that suits her.
Right.
Mhm.
How much on a technical aspect for your setup, say, like your amps and your guitars that you play, have changed over the past 23 years? Like, did you have to go back and revisit old tones that you wouldn't even touch now? Or like, were you playing, I don't, I don't know, like in completely different setup, amp wise, string wise? I don't know, just something different.
No, I was kind of like, my pedal board really hasn't changed because it's kind of just been like me adding things onto it. Because those are usually the pedals that I recorded the songs with.
Hmm.
Um, but like you're also talking to like the person who like gives the least amount of fucks about guitar equipment on earth. Like I
You?
honestly, like I don't give a fuck about guitars. Like I don't care about
Really?
guitars. Like I mean, like
You're the first musician that's ever come on our show that to say anything remotely in that.
And I
whatever.
love that.
Like
I don't know. I
honestly,
see
like,
that, dude. The more you care about the
and
gear,
I
very
don't
often,
like,
the less you actually play the music.
I don't like to like sound like that. It's not something that it's not like a point of pride or anything like that. But like talking about gear is like one of the most boring things like that
I love
possibly
you
think
so
of.
much, dude. I hate it. It doesn't
It's
interest
fucking
me.
boring.
It's boring. It's nerd shit. It does not interest me whatsoever.
I've disappointed so many fans. Like people come up to me and they want to talk about like their 72 Olympic white Fender Strat that they got, and I'm just like, I
Sweet,
try to
man.
care. I try to care, but I can't.
You're like, dude, sweet. That's sick, bro.
I like
Nice.
honestly, music is not about at all about like what you use to make it.
Yeah.
It's much more about the ideas, that are represented by the music. That's me getting all like philosophical or whatever, but like I kind of don't like, all my guitar techs that I've ever had like kind of hated me because like they all like wanted to try shit and like be like, "Hey, I think you'd really like this thing." And I'd be like, "I don't give a fuck. Like, just make sure it works."
I mean, do you
Like,
think part of
Yes.
the fact, like reading about your studies at Harvard, that you found basically an intellectual outlet for quote nerding out that's actually an intellectual outlet as opposed to putting that into guitar? Are those two things connected or just not connected?
yeah, like I mean, it's all connected to this sort of like common thread of curiosity. And I think that there are things, it's not that I'm like so uninterested in guitar, or guitar gear or whatever. I just think that there are so many more things that are so much more interesting to
Hmm.
me that I
Right.
spend my time and energy like delving into. So like, for example, like I love biology. I love biology and physics. And um like if we're talking about how to find things out about the world that we live in, philosophy is great. Um people have a lot of good ideas, but to me, the most important thing is like what we can measure and like what we can agree upon. Like if all of us decided we were going to build a house together, we'd all have to agree, like, all right, well, this is a foot and this is 2 feet, and we're going to make this part 5 feet and that part, 7 feet. Like that's how the world works.
I'm
And like there's a lot of disagreement about a lot of different shit, but in the scientific community, um, and even there's disagreement, but there's certain areas where objective, let's just for lack of a better term, say like objective truths can be sort of sought out, like things that we can all agree on. Like
yeah.
I could say like, I talked to Jesus last night and you might be like, well, I didn't fucking hear him, like so what does that mean, right? Who is somebody right and somebody wrong? I don't know. I don't fucking care. Like I care because I'm an empathetic human being and like I care about what other people think, but like what really fascinates me about the world is like what we can figure out about it that we can all agree actually like exists.
Who's
I
your
mean
I'm
that,
favorite?
yeah, that's an
Um,
interesting point. There is the question though of like I hear this analogy used a lot that we all dream and we all agree that we dream, and we cannot at the same time explain to one another the subjective experience of having that dream. So I 100% agree with you that there is like this path of trying to find basically consensus that approaches this like unapproachable idea of objective reality. But there does appear to be another side of it. And I think that's perhaps where music comes in because they're approaching the truth perhaps from two different angles or two different sides.
Well,
And
there's this paper that was written called the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics in the natural scientific world.
Mhm.
And it's like it's true. Like mathematics makes predictions about stuff that, phenomena in nature that are so fucking weird, and like a lot of which turn out to be, let's call it true for a lack of a better term, but let's just say more, I'll say accurate to a very, very high degree of accuracy
Mhm.
that is so astonishing that like, and then now you want to talk to me about fucking guitar pedals? Like, okay, fine.
I'm just picturing some like sweaty ponytailed nerd who runs the counter at Guitar Center waiting outside of an Incubus show to talk to you about the way that you wire the setup on your pedal board. And you're like, did you know the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell? And he's like, what? And then he just leaves shocked.
No, but like also the way that I wire up my pedal board is like so not the way it was designed to be wound up. So like people are like, "Oh, you're not using your effects loop the right way." And I'm like, "I don't
Shut the
fucking
fuck up,
care."
dude.
Like I don't care. Like I like the way it sounds. So like whatever.
Yo,
Oh.
I'm an Incubus. You're at my show watching
Exactly.
Incubus. Leave the
I don't
music.
look at it like that,
Oh, come on, stunt a little bit, dude. Let's go.
You got to stone a little bit. I
You
mean,
got to.
we've met a bunch of guys. I don't know what it is with musicians where they have innate, a lot of them at least. It's like idle hand syndrome where they have to like constantly be exercising their brain in some way. Like you're obviously a famous musician, like
some are
everybody,
better at covering it up than others, I guess.
but you just decide to like dabble in astrophysics and biology on like
Look,
what is it?
mentorship is everything.
Mm.
Like the people that you surround yourself with that, you know, like have spent their lives and careers studying these things in a really serious, measured way. Um, and this is one of the challenges of society. It's like, where do you get your information from, right? Like, oh, I don't trust this news source outlet. There's so much fucking politics. I can't wait. I can't wait for fucking politics to be boring again, like when I
Yep.
was a kid, you know,
Oh my God.
like,
I can tell you that moment
know.
is right now.
No, it's about to get a lot crazier.
Yes,
Listen,
for
man,
sure.
you just need to look for the truth. You need to watch strictly Fox News where it's completely unbiased and just move on. You know what I mean? Just really
I
find
totally
a
get
true
it.
news source.
Who was I? Who was I? I was watching something last night, and somebody was saying like talking about boomers. I can't remember who it was, and they were like boomers. They were like boomers fucked it all up. Like first they had sex, drugs, rock and roll, and now they're all watching fucking Fox News. And it's just
Natural progression.
like what the fuck, you know? Like they
Natural-
watch heavy metal parking lot, and like
Yeah,
all those
dude.
people are now watching fucking Fox News. Like,
And you know it's funny? A lot of those
guys.
episodes were filmed in Philadelphia, and they all live here, and they're just hanging out, yelling about immigration.
Hey, we probably shouldn't end on this note. So, Colin,
No.
we're
No.
getting the word that we do need to wrap things up. So, Colin, I'll let you kind of close out a
Yeah,
question if you want.
I mean, dude, this has been eye-opening, and I said I really grew up on Incubus, so this was huge for me. You guys are going back, you're touring this right now, and what's the reaction been from everybody to go out and see the shows and kind of not the new versions of the songs, but reworked, and then, you know, also my other question would be like, do you guys plan on going back and doing light grenades and things like that and continuing this trend?
Yeah, I mean, we played the show, we played Morning View at the Hollywood Bowl last October, and it was kind of one of these things where we were sort of just trying it out, and it felt like it was just it felt really good to play it. Like there was this reverence that people seemed to have for the music. It was very like spiritual in a way, and you know, people bringing their kids and like it just felt like kind of important in a way that maybe I hadn't experienced before. And I think the other people in the band felt that too. So we decided to do it as a tour because we thought it would be fun, and that something that our fans would like really enjoy. So we're like really excited about like having this experience together because like we all know that like there's a high potential for that. So we're super excited about it. I'm really looking forward to it.
I mean, you guys have been such a consistent touring act while also pursuing other things, and it's just been great to see a hardworking band that really made it go out and still be able to do this. And I think the last thing I want to leave you on is how many people tell you they found you on a That's What I Call Music CD? Because I think that's my Drive was on, I think Now That's What I Call Music Volume 13. And that's still where I remember finding Incubus.
I definitely remember people telling me that. You know, I went to college as an adult. I think it was like 2008. I was already like 30 something. And like people, I remember meeting people that like telling me that they discovered Incubus on like Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
Like they'd be like, "Oh yeah, you're from Guitar Hero, right?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's me."
You
Yeah,
guys had
totally.
to have been a Madden soundtrack band at one point too. Like I
Like,
feel like either Madden or NHL or something like that. I'm pretty sure Megalomaniac was on the
yeah,
soundtrack of
I
something.
think there was some college football stuff going on, you know, like whatever. It's like it's look, we're just happy to be part of the conversation, right? Like it's like you can't control who loves your music and who doesn't love your music, and if you try to, then fuck you, you know, like what's the point?
If I ever need
You haven't
any
met some of my fans then.
if I ever need any sort of, you know, acknowledgement or any sort of like breakdown of like molecular levels of cells, I'm gonna call you. And if I ever need to rewire my pedal board, I'll completely ignore your number. That's how we're gonna go. That's how we're gonna leave on this.
There's this awesome um Venn diagram that somebody posted. Maybe I'll just like leave you with this. I don't know how well you can see it. You can freeze frame it. It's pretty good.
Music I like, music my friends like,
Yeah.
music that makes money. I've seen that before. All right.
Yeah, it's good, right?
Oh
It's
man.
good.
All right. I think that's how we're gonna get out of here. Mike, we appreciate your seats always open. Good luck on the tour. Everybody go check out the rework. And
I'll see you guys in, I think, 2 Saturdays from now in Chicago.
I'm
hey.
excited. Bring
Yep.
all your friends.
All right, Mike. Thank you very much, brother. We'll see you soon.
All right, you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Great to
buddy.
meet you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.